Who do you think Arnold is?
Well, I've got a theory. Could be Bernard, a robot Bernard. No, something isn't right there. I've got a theory. Could be Dolores. He hid himself inside a massive robot mind. Yes, I've got a theory. We should podcast. Take them back. Welcome to Westworld Theories, where we discuss the latest and greatest in the world of Westworld. This time we're talking about episodes 5 and 6 of Season 3, and I'm kind of wondering if we're going to have a bit of a shift that we often have, where I'm very positive at the start and Jim's very negative, and then we turn things around. Who knows? Either way, my name's Jacob Burrows, and I'm here to talk about Westworld.
And I'm Jim Scampoli, and I'm just high as fuck, living off those designer futuristic drugs that I like to call movies and TV shows.
What genre are you in, bro?
Oh, man, who's to even say? I mean, and
Now-
honestly, who's to even say towards the latter half of that episode what genre we're in?
No clue. Now, what I was alluding to was when we've discussed shows like Mr. Robot, Game of Thrones, Legion, I feel like I've often come in quite positive at the start and then gotten soured and bitter as a season progresses, whereas you've come in negative and then you've often gone like, yeah, I expected it to be shit, so, this is about as fine as I thought it would be. Are we seeing that now? Because I will admit, I'm not very hyped on Westworld right now.
I guess we're kind of seeing that. I mean, partially it's because my my expectations were set a certain way because I had not watched these episodes yet, and Jacob was already like, "Oh, this show sucks." Like,
yes, sorry to give you a glimpse behind the curtain, everybody, but I thought episode 5 sucked a lot.
Yeah, the episode 5, genre, directed by Anna Forster and written by Carrie Krauss and Jonathan Nolan. I mean, we're going to go cover both that and Decoherence, directed by Jennifer Getzinger and written by Suzanne Rubel and Lisa Joy. The thing is, although I'm not high on them either, so maybe it is kind of exactly what you're saying. But I guess it's because you were like, yeah, I'm not feeling this episode that I was kind of waiting for, or maybe I was just expecting a little bit more to it, which in a weird way helped, I suppose. Yeah. But there's definitely some issues. I mean, I don't know if we're jumping right into it yet or not, but like, well, actually, you know what? First, before I say anything, explain what really rubbed you the wrong way.
Right. So episode 5, genre, if you're listening back to this, it's the one where Aaron Paul does drugs accidentally and shifts between a bunch of genres, kind of. Now, so, like, the content of the episode isn't that bad in itself, necessarily, so that's probably why it seemed like you were expecting something to be worse than it was. I just kind of felt like it made it clear to me what Westworld is, and I didn't like what it is, And we have a Westworld podcast. I'm afraid I might abstain from season 4 whenever that comes out in 3 or 4 years, because I don't want to have a podcast where I just talk shit about a show. So sorry everyone if this is your favorite show and you're loving it, but I might not be super positive on it. It says online that genre has been a polarizing episode. Some people think it's one of the strongest episodes, and others think it's one of the worst. The reason it falls into the latter category for me is more that it's totally irrelevant that Aaron Paul is high throughout the whole episode. Yeah. It is only there to make a chase and a whole sequence that isn't interesting enough to give it some future cyberpunk spice. So he gets this accidental drug, and it even seems to be hinting at first that it might help him have some flashbacks or realize something about, his army days, and in combination with the other storyline, which isn't that bad, where we find out more about the robot brain running the world and all of that, and the two brothers. I thought there'd be some sort of tying together there of maybe what's going on. But no, Aaron Paul's just high as fuck, and he couldn't be high on regular drugs. It's just so that the show itself can shift and go into like black and white noir or whatever, because that's what this drug does, which I don't mind as a concept. It just adds absolutely nothing to the plot of the episode, except Aaron Paul's a bit sweaty and we play like jazz over it, and then we make the lights pulsate because it's not interesting enough what's going on, so we need to throw this shit on top of it. I really thought they were going to reconnect it somehow. So maybe I'm overreacting just based on the content of the episode. It was just kind of like, you're doing this because the story's not good enough. You're just spackling this shit on top.
No, I think that's a great criticism, and I think people will be hard pressed to really argue it. Because my issue with it too. I mean, because that spells it out more, and I completely agree with what you're saying. Because I look at it as I was speaking on this show that I wanted more fun, and like it feels like it is trying to give me more fun, but the problem is that the show is not fun. So. Even when they try to give you fun, it doesn't fit. It doesn't work. And you're right. It just comes off as just a gimmick. It's not like, in like Buffy or something when they could do a musical episode or do a silent episode or a dream episode. And in my opinion, everything's weaved in perfectly and it serves the characters and it serves the story. And it just kind of happens. And you think to yourself, like, hey, when I make a TV show, I'm going to do cool stuff like that on my show. And then I guess you're right. Like, this is an example of someone being like, well, what if we did this cool thing? And then it doesn't amount to much. There's some fun moments. I think it's fun. Like, the black and white noir stuff is really stupid because it's like we either have to be in his point of view or not in his point of view.
Yes. It's to cut you off. I wanted to add, like, right before he gets the drugs, right? The electro music playing is so intense that it's kind of distracting from the scene for me. There's like a heartbeat, like dun dun dun, before he gets any drugs. It's just standard Westworld backdrop, and we continue with that throughout, where we shift in and out of his perspective. But even when we're outside his perspective, we're still playing dramatic music because that's the world of Westworld. So maybe have everything be silent except when we're in his hallucination, or just stay in his point of view, like you said.
Yeah, and I think they do subtle things, but you're right, because I think they do pump it up a little bit more when it's him, and then they try to make it like the music's weaving in and out, but it's not enough in my opinion. And especially it's just distracting when it's going to black and white when he's in the shot, but then sometimes he's in the shot and it's not black and white again, because I get it. It's because we're not always in his perspective. And maybe they were just confused that since this show is such a show that deals with reality and what's real and what isn't, that if we were always in his point of view, at the end of the episode, we'd be like, well, did any of that happen? Yeah. Which I guess is fair, but that's kind of their bad. But yeah,
a lot of small things to call out, like Dolores just giving him a huge rifle when he looks high as fuck. Like, he's clearly not going to do anything good with it. And I would also have liked if there was more of like the genres actually being in any way significant or important to what's happening. Like, noir films aren't necessarily known for big shootouts and car chases. So maybe if he, like, even if it was something silly like, oh, he starts talking like an old school detective or whatever, at least then he's acting. Now he's just, he all of these would look exactly the same when you're shooting them, because he's always like, what the fuck? And then it's different stuff on top. If it like goes into his brain and like, no, he thinks he's a detective now, we got to deal with this shit for a while, but then he accidentally cracks some part of the case or whatever, I don't know, but none of that's in there. He's just high and we throw different filters on it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to be fair, they switch to action as we get, although it's still noir when it's the car chase, and then it kind of switches to action. But you're right, it's like it's a clumsy thing. The remote rocket's super fun, and I was like, this is cool. But then that's when I was thinking, but like Westworld positions itself too much up its own ass to have fun, that it just, I don't know, it doesn't fit as well as they want it to. And I guess to them, they were thinking about, well, using this genre stuff, we can have fun with this, but it doesn't quite work. And then it starts to get really murky on the genres anyways.
I have no idea for a lot of it because he's just sometimes not high, and that's when it's switching genres maybe, and he's in like romance for 2 seconds looking at Dolores. Like, maybe go somewhere with that, since he is obviously infatuated with her, and you could go a little somewhere with that before he finds out she's a robot and that. But no.
Yeah, I mean, they play the Shining music on the beach, which I have to admit, I turn into that stupid guy where I'm like, the thing, I recognize the thing. And I got all excited when because I love The Shining and I'm like, oh my God, The Shining music. And then I even have to have a moment of myself where I'm like, come on, self, don't do that. I mean, but again, going back to your point, it's not even that different from Westworld though, because a scene before they're playing ground control to Major Tom in their Westworld thing, and
Yeah.
we talked about how a week or two ago they're playing The Weekend. So if this was like something that only came in because we're in genre, and now they're doing Westworld versions of music, it would be like, oh shit, this is a stylistic choice that's playing into the genre drug. But it's like, no, is this just a Westworld Shining choice, or is this a drug choice to point that we're getting into horror, which even again is not really horror. I guess it kind of is. And then there's the whole thing where Marshawn Lynch says, "Watch out for that last act," and I
Oh
don't
yeah.
feel like anything really happens. I mean, something happens, but is it the drug? Not really. It's kind of the drug, I guess, when they kill Dennehy Jr. and he's saying, who does he think I am? And again, like they're still playing with, I guess the big mystery they want to play with is this whole Kid Cudi Aaron Paul relationship, which now I guess we're getting some clarity that I don't know, he killed his own friend or something and they wiped his memory. What do you glean from what's happening here?
I don't know, and it's I feel like I should have looked more into that part of things, but I kind of stopped caring a little bit. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No.
Because it's like you're giving me loads of information about other shit that I already understand, like how this data stuff works and everything. There's loads of information on that, which seems like we could just assume. But then on this, you're trying to string us along to keep us interested. But it's just, I'll just wait until they tell me outright what's going on that front, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree that like watch out for that last act. And I think maybe what that was supposed to be is when he gets off the train station and he's like, "Whoa, what genre is this?" And they're like, "It's real life, baby." And I thought maybe that was it, but then like we, the viewer, never thought that was because he was high. We knew that was happening. Like I assumed they'd send it to the whole world even before there's the reveal that no, it wasn't just the train station. It was everyone. Like I just assumed that's what Dolores would do. So it was never like, oh my god.
I agree. Yeah. I never, because when they explained that, I was like, yeah, was there a question that it wasn't everyone? Because I thought
Yeah.
from the jump that they were releasing the information. I mean, it is a pretty big plot happenings here where I mean, and again, like I don't even quite understand how they did it because I thought the whole thing was they didn't understand how Rehoboam works, or I guess Dennehy Jr. didn't, but they were
Well,
still able to use his blood to get into it or into the system. It's such a convoluted thing, but at the end of the day, all we need to know is that they got everyone's file out to the people.
Well, I guess I followed it in that I assume they don't know how it works, but they can still read like the data from it. So I think he says at
Okay.
some point like he only has read access, so they can't fuck up the
Gotcha.
system. But she's like, no, no problem. We'll be able to read all of the data and download it and send it to everyone. And that's what Bernard and
But
other Dolores is doing as well at this
and
time.
also, I mean, is this too much? Am I being too much of a nitpicker here to think that maybe every single person wouldn't get bad news? like there's not. There couldn't have been one guy like, oh shit, I'm gonna get that promotion. Yeah, like I understand that the whole idea is that it starts to bleed chaos because we're throwing this into everyone's finely tuned world. Your secrets are out or whatever.
Mm.
But I don't know. I feel like a couple people were like, yeah, oh man, this is great.
Or at least go like, yeah, that's about what I expected. Like
Yeah,
there's so many.
or yeah, it would be either good to kind of like, oh, whatever. I guess I live till I'm 70 with my family. I don't think every single person would be like drug addiction, suicide, child death.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess those are the people responsibly staying at home, and then there's other people looting in the street, much like in real life.
Yeah.
We could be. I mean, maybe it's the whole 1% thing where I don't know. Maybe there's enough bad things that happen in all of our lives that whatever big bad thing is listed as the next thing happening to you is what you would focus on anyway. You'd hardly be able to take it in and go like, yeah, all right, the next 10 years are gonna suck, but in 20 years I'll have a fucking pension. Like, so maybe everyone's just focusing on the bad. But yeah, it does seem like what we're going for is like we've built a sort of idyllic world where everyone kind of knows their place and it works like clockwork, and we're trying to rebuild the environment by, I don't know, having plants on our skyscrapers or whatever. I remember seeing something like that in episode
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
We're trying to do all this, and now this is going to cause like we're doing that by tricking everyone into accepting a lower lot in life than what they deserve. And this sounds a lot like the American dream, just in general, to me from the outside, or I guess suppose any capitalist dream of like just keep working and you'll be fine, and then everyone finds out that they're not going to be fine. If I can
Yeah.
get political.
But they hint that there is more of an authoritarian thing going around because, I mean, I know it says like, or they've mentioned it too with Aaron Paul's character, and it's shown in one of these person's things, like approved for childbirth or whatever. But like, is that something you don't know? Is that a surprise on if you're approved to have a kid or not? I mean, this is more specifics that they only hint at, but because that's what I was wondering when people get that information, are they like, "What? I'm not approved to have a child," or they're like, "Oh, that's why I'm not approved to have a child."
Oh, I assumed it was like they have a lot of illusion of freedom.
Yeah.
So that the whole approval for a child thing would be like a weird, really weird thing to get in your text where it's like, oh no, we've been sterilizing you through the taps of water
Okay. Yeah.
in your
Yeah. All right.
apartment.
That makes more sense. So it is
Yeah.
something where it's like it's not it's like an undercurrent. But then again, I guess at par for the course for Westworld, where it feels like they rebuild the show every year. Because I think in the first season it was like hinted that the real world was like shit for everyone except these like rich people that are coming to Westworld, because that's what we thought, like they were on the moon or whatever the fuck.
I still think they're on the moon, but go on.
Yeah, but I don't know, it just seems like then they kind of had to like rebuild that a little bit where it's like, okay, well, no, it's more like how we live now. There's just a secret robot ball sack that controls all of our destinies. And doesn't someone call it a ball sack? Yeah, I think Dennehy Senior. I think he calls it a ball sack at one point.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of like his character because he's kind of like calling them idiots, and your man's brother is like saying that we gotta kill him, and he's literally just looking to make money off his investment, which is a very understandable motivation for him, a douchebag businessman. Kind of respect it.
Yeah, and actually backing up real quick, I guess it is to your point that it's all kind of relative because we see Karen Miller gets news that she has early onset Alzheimer's. Maria Davis sees that her daughter is going to kill herself. But the first guy we see is Terrence Danvers. And it's like his coworkers say he's flaky, loud, and crazy. And he's like devastated. Are you serious?
Are you serious? Nicholas doesn't like me? What the fuck?
And it's like, you look at that guy, you saw him in the background of the shots beforehand. Look at this well put together businessman. Nope, his coworkers think he's flaky, he's loud, he's definitely not up for that promotion.
Great. Yeah, so they shoot the guy and the guy dies, and Aaron Paul has these flashes as I was talking about at the start, like what's going on? Who does he? Whatever he does, we don't know anything. We don't know anything about his past anymore because it's all up in the air. But they do talk about like the other storyline where they develop the whole robot ball sack and all that. It's kind of interesting in that we see the different motivations that go into it. Like making money is a very short-term thinking because we can actually control people. And do we understand? Like, how do you understand all of this stuff with people being locked up? Are all the people locked up just people who are on the fringes of society and therefore make weird choices, or like these are people who the system can't understand? Is that why they're being put away, or are they just clinically insane and that's the problem?
Yeah, that's how I read it. It was a little of both. It was just kind of people. It was like the dregs of society. It's like how we how we ignore like homeless people, stuff like that. Like, oh, let's move these people out of the way. The thing is, this would be so much more powerful, and this is going back to a point you had already made. If Serac wasn't a fucking maniac himself that just gets pleasure off of murdering people, where if it seemed like he was more of a guy that really believed, I mean, I guess he still believes in what he's doing, but if it came off more as a genuine thing that he thinks he's helping the world, I guess you can argue that over time of like being like an algorithm himself, taking a life isn't a big deal because he understands the greater good. But the scenes where he kills someone is always played off as like this pleasurable thing, or like, I don't know. Or even, I guess this is the episode that has where he does his like speaking to the Brazilian president or whatever it was. He seems to take too much pleasure in doing his villainy that it undercuts some of this backstory, where I think it would be a much more powerful villain if it felt like he was more right and we could side with him more. And then it would be more of a conundrum like, well, who do we side with? Because Dolores, as we know, is like, she is a victim that we want to root for, but she also is like mean to Maeve and like to other hosts and stuff like that. So we're a little questionable sometimes. So I don't know. I wish they kept it a little murkier, and I think it would have helped some of this backstory where we're going through his whole life. And since you thought it was bad, I was totally expecting his brother not to exist from the way it was shot at first.
Yeah.
Because when he walks in and he's like, we should just kill this guy. And it seems like no one reacts to another man walking into the scene. So I'm like, oh shit, this guy don't exist.
I guess he does exist, but yeah, no. I mean, obviously, I agree because you were repeating my point, but even better, you were enhancing it, and I think, especially true in this episode where we see him like, lock up all these people. I think he talks about sending them off to war so that like the war can handle these people, which is interesting. If he is in control of so much, does he keep wars going just to get rid of difficult people? Or what? And then he also kills the guy at the airplane. And again, it's kind of like, like a vicious sort of, he's so convinced he's right that he doesn't feel like, I would love to see him feel bad about the murders he does, and go like, shit, well, at least if I look at the algorithm, the data says I made the right choice, but I don't feel like it. No, he's just super villain. He's just really, I need to be the villain, which, is fine, but maybe not for a show that tries to have so much nuance, where it's like you're trying to be about how it's complicated to make these kinds of decisions about consciousness and what is right and the greater good, but you have to have a mustache twirling villain. Why couldn't he be a bit more sympathetic? I think it would have done a lot for this season.
Yeah, or at the very least, if we didn't have him murdering people in the previous 4 episodes, it would have maybe seemed like more of an impact when he does bash that dude's face into the plane, and it would be like, oh shit, that's what this guy's all about. Like, it was very similar to how they're like, wait, Dolores, you sent this to everyone? It's like, yeah, we know he's gonna kill this guy. Like, there's no question. I mean, the only question is because the guy's like, no, the machine said you wouldn't do it. And it's like, okay. And I mean, I guess, is it because he's an agent of the system that the system doesn't mark him as an anomaly, or is he purposely ignoring himself being marked? Like, is that even a question? Is that something they'll explore? I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, I thought it would be like, because the ball sack doesn't give us one future, it gives us many. Like, it was basically like, what future would you want to see, and then we give the input that leads to the future that we want, sort of thing. And what I was supposing was the people who are like outliers are the ones who prevent them from getting to the future that they want by inputting their inputs. So since he's in control, basically, he can't be an anomaly because he's the one saying, we want this to be what happens. So he's always doing the will of the robot god, which sounds like a weird sentence, but it's basically what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I guess that works. It's just fine. Whatever.
yeah, whatever. So I guess let's get into the next episode 6, which I did enjoy this one more. By the end of it, how did you feel about episode 6?
Yeah, it was fine. I kind of feel like we should be done with Charlotte, but I mean, and I was like, fuck, yeah, we're done with Charlotte, and I was like, oh no, we ain't. Um, so, but I guess that's going to bring in an interesting thing of like the rogue Dolores coming back for some sort of revenge and how she's different. Mostly, I guess it's because I don't like that actress really at all. But I was kind of like, oh, sweet, we're going to be done with Charlotte. But no, we're not done with Charlotte.
Yeah, I felt differently. Just I think it was literally just I didn't like a lot of the episode, but then when the action happened, it felt way better for me anyway than all the action in genre, which is just like, is this even happening? I don't even know. And when Charlotte Hale is going around the Delos HQ shooting people and fighting people, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool. I don't mind this.
Yeah, the action on this show's always been pretty sus, that's for sure. Like I'm kind of surprised because it's got such high production value and it looks really great, but the action has always kind of been off. I mean, especially this season. But I mean, I guess backing up a bit, I mean, I'm rolling my eyes a bit when Maeve is back in her war world.
Yeah.
I guess because now this is kind of the reboot phase. This is her reboot land that she goes to, I guess, as they're powering back up. Although I guess they are back on the are they back on the island on this? Well, the island. Are they back on the moon? Are they back? They do make a couple ventures to Westworld because they have to get some bodies and burn up the rest, right?
Yeah, but the whole that's true, but the whole simulation is not done from there,
It's
so
just in
they're
the
not.
system.
Yeah, but they are in the Delos HQ, I guess, because obviously Charlotte Hale's running in there, taking their brain orbs and so on and so forth.
And I mean, we kind of glossed over, but yeah, Bernard and Stubbs are back from the previous episode because again, I guess Bernard is Bernard a variable, or is Dolores knows what Bernard's going to do, and that's why she needs him. I mean, I guess she knows what he's going to do because they even said in that other episode, like, oh, things are a little ahead of schedule, like when Bernard shows up. So is he going to play his part or is he going to break off a bit? I guess we'll see. But then we deal with, of course, William in this, but now we have all the Williams. I mean, that was, even though I like William and I like Ed Harris, I was kind of glossing over a little bit while this was happening. I do want to read a couple excerpts from an interview with Ed Harris speaking about Westworld.
Okay.
Let me see. I still have it here. Okay. The show has preserved the mystery of whether William could be a host, and this episode doesn't definitively resolve it. Is that something Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan have told you definitively? And he's like, they pretty much leave it up in the air. Being a person who enjoys doing theater and making it new and fresh every night, I just as soon know the full arc of my character, but unfortunately, I do not. So it's just revealed to you episode by episode. Yeah, pretty much. In this episode, William's treatment includes what looks like a Clockwork Orange style torture of you being strapped down and manhandled. What was it like filming that? You do what you got to do. I mean, I signed on to play the man in black. I didn't sign on to play the man in white. So it wasn't the most joyous season for me, I got to say. The character has gone on such a dark place. It must be hard to embody. It's not so hard to embody, but it's hard to feel like something I'm really enjoying doing.
That's great. I love that.
So I love that he's kind of frustrated. I feel like he's doing good work. I like what he brings to it, but to his point, I feel like, yeah, it's got to be frustrating because they are kind of changing it each year, which is fine. It's fine if a show does that, but then it starts to feel very unfocused. You got to hide that. Well, not that Breaking Bad changed every year, but the writers speak about how there are things that they found as they were discussing story and planning things out that seemed like they were planned and they weren't. And Westworld's not doing a great job at that, really. And if he's trying to do this character, he's probably so sick of always having to be like, who am I? What am I? Oh my God. And then he doesn't even know. So,
and it's years between the seasons for everyone watching. So it's like, what? Because, I came into this season like, wait, did we have reason to think he was a host? Like, I don't know. Is he a one or is he just mad because he killed his daughter? Was his daughter a host? Like, you're just trying to remember this shit. And it doesn't help, like, him in a room talking to all his previous selves and then murdering them. I'm like, I don't know what therapy he's learning, but I feel like he's getting the wrong lesson from this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like the moment of him, like in his therapy moment, in his Melfi scene, basically,
Yeah,
when his Melfi gets the news. Like, it's a nice way to see how like the ripples are affecting everyone. And I kind of like at the end the reveal that like, shit's gone to hell, and they just kind of left him there, and he's been in his fucking in his uh in his weird therapy moment, destroying all his previous selves. Like I do like how that plays out, but it's still tough to, from a story point of view, to like, or like a viewer, to be like, okay, what is the point? Like, where are we going now? What is happening here?
yeah, yeah, and like I felt it was a little bit over the top when his therapist just immediately kills herself in her office. But I guess
Oh, yeah.
why go half measures, I suppose. But it just means that the therapy that we're watching him do is less about the actual exploration of his mind and more about what's going to happen to him as society falls apart. And we don't really get to see that. Instead, we're like, oh, we're supposed to care about him exploring his brain in this chair in this AR thing. And even though everything is falling apart and there's a shootout out happening in the other storyline, I don't know. I just don't care so much about him being really mad at his past selves and so on. And also, he's like immediately like, I was never like that as a child. And then it immediately goes like, why did you kill all those birds or whatever, William?
Yeah,
It's like, well, you clearly were. Like, again, doesn't give him much three dimensionality, but that I believe at least. Like, I would like, it's interesting talking about villains in this because Sirach is so black and white, and William's gone from like he was, Sirach of season one. He knew everything that was going to happen. He's played this game a million times, and he just wants, something weird out of it that we don't understand. And then now he has been with us. He's gone through Westworld. He's been through so much Westworld that he has no idea what the fuck's going on anymore. So he doesn't have a clear motivation.
It's really so amazing how. I mean, I guess it makes sense now that we're in the real world, but it felt like, obviously, when we're in the park in season one, that the park is so important, but it feels like such a thing that it affects nothing. Like, even Sirach, like, he doesn't give a shit about, like, I guess the whole thing is that they're trying to save the hosts, right? Because he's just trying to get the data, but it almost even feels like even the data that they got is still somewhat secondary. Like, he doesn't give a shit that much about it at all. And like, no one really cares that there's artificial intelligence on the park. I guess it makes sense, but it's just funny from a viewer's standpoint, being in this real world where no one gives a fuck about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we got enough real people running around. Who cares if they can make extra people? Just shut it down, burn them all, I guess.
I mean, and there's this whole thing with William's blood. They find something in his blood, but then later they're mentioning something about someone's blood, but I couldn't tell if they were talking about Dennehy or William's blood. Was William's blood the key to what they were doing here, or were they talking about someone else? Or is the William's blood thing supposed to be like, is he a host?
I don't even remember that bit. I know that like Dolores obviously has like the key to Shangri-La in her brain, where all the other hosts went, I guess, on like a in like a different robot dimension of the cloud, where everyone is, which again is one thing that we're supposed to somehow care about when Maeve and Dolores have a little chat there in the virtual reality. And it's like, okay, so they're basically having that conversation, it felt like, her and Maeve, in order to justify why they're on different sides here. It's not really like a conversation. It's more like, it's like to justify what's going on. It feels like, at least. But no, I don't really remember the William Blood thing, to be honest.
There's a thing at the very beginning when they take his blood, and then we see it run through the computer, and the computer pops up like an alert, like it says like an anomaly, or it says something detected. But I think they mentioned something about using someone's blood to get into Delos, so maybe that's what it was, or it's just hinting that he's a host. I guess, whatever. Now, is there something more to this extra gift? I guess there is someone else coming, right? I mean, I know she kills Dolores kills Maeve's boyfriend, or whatever he is, which who cares? Seen the guy die a million times, doesn't matter. But then she does see a body coming out. And is that supposed to be the empty husk of that guy, or is that supposed to be someone else?
So when she was like, "Oh, I've got an extra gift," the
Yeah.
next scene is when they go downstairs and Dolores is
Oh,
there, and they
Dolores. Okay.
yeah, so they plugged in her consciousness just so they could have a heart to heart and she could try to get under her skin or get some more information or whatever. I suppose that's what I assumed it was. Though I just assumed she was in to get the rider guy, get the bandit guy. Yeah, let's get the gang back together. But
Is
no, I
she gonna
guess.
have? Well, is she gonna use that Dolores copy then? Because it felt like at the end when it shows someone being like built, which I guess is just the empty husk of that dead guy. Is she gonna put a Dolores copy in him?
Mm,
And we'll
I
have
don't know.
another
I
Dolores
th-
copy.
I thought we would get a Rider Guy, but Rider Guy obviously isn't a true AI, I guess. He's just
Yeah.
based on readings of the real human before he died, and which is the data that they want to get, or Sirach wants to get on all the rich people or whatever, which again, I don't. I guess that will help him stabilize this thing because we get the graphic showing that because all the information is released, everything's going to shit. But I feel like in this episode anyway, it starts to realign and new predictions come in. So he doesn't seem that worried. But I assume that's supposed to be his motivation for getting the data, so he can plug it in, right? And then the ball sack's going to go into overdrive, and we're going to know everything is going to be fine. Right? I don't know, but
Yeah,
I thought they were going to print the writer guy anyway. Who knows?
that would be great. Could use more writer guy.
Yeah, favorite character.
And then yeah, through the rest we have of course Charlotte, where it is. I do like seeing that the Doloreses are different because they're having different experiences, living different lives. Um, and now is it thought then that Dolores is the one that tries to kill herself here because she understands that she's different, or is this supposed to be thought that someone else like Sirach or someone else did it here, or does it even matter?
What do you mean, the car explosion?
Yes.
Oh, so you're asking if it's like Dolores Prime doing it
Yes.
to hail Dolores? I had that thought as well, but there's some shady guy right there after the explosion, and he looks like one of Sirach's dudes. So I
Yeah.
assumed it was supposed to be Sirach, as which is fine. I also thought it might be Dolores or something, but I similarly I had the thought of like, whoa, guess there's no more Charlotte Hale, but then she kicks it out, and I didn't mind that because now it's like Dolores, but this Dolores is going to be hell bent on vengeance for a family that wasn't even her own family, which I think is kind of interesting, more interesting than just having Dolores guided by vague motivations to get the world the way she wants it and everything, which is what she usually does. So now I'm like, oh, interesting. Now it'll be that Dolores isn't, I think, going to be on Dolores Prime's side anymore. So that creates a new sort of dynamic there of what she wants and what she's going for.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess flipping through it here, Charlotte Dolores does take Dolores copy with her. So yeah, there's no Dolores copy. So yeah, I guess she's just looking at the husk of her love and like I guess more like revenge.
Yes.
They do a whole. I watched the whole like FX breakdown of the car explosion because you see Jacob, they couldn't just blow up a car on that street.
No, they had to
So
do it on a different street.
Yeah, they did it on a parking lot, and they did it with a Jeep, just a regular old Jeep with a bunch of X's on it, so they could blow it up, and then they could paint over it with this futuristic car. And I'm like, you know what? Just do a digital explosion at that point. Stop. Just
Well,
stop.
I don't know. I thought it looked good either way. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. But
There's,
yeah,
I was going to say the quick little parallel. I mean, it's fast, but as Maeve is being rebuilt, she looks similar for a couple quick moments to burnt up Charlotte Hale. So now are we going to just get a quick moment where she goes and heals herself, or are we going to have gnarly, nasty Freddy Krueger Charlotte Hale going for revenge for the rest of the episodes?
I fucking hope so. I hope my hope is for option B. And again, the whole Charlotte Hale like in Delos and all that, I kind of enjoyed that. Basically, because To
Well,
be
here's
honest,
the one thing I
yeah.
didn't like is the haha. You are a host. The last thing Charlotte would have done would have been checked on her
Oh
chat.
yeah, that
You know?
was dumb. You couldn't figure it out any of the other million ways. That had to be the one. That was
Yes.
silly. But yeah, no, I just like the shootout stuff. I definitely checked out of some
And
of it.
the big robots, that was cool.
No, the big robots looked like Transformers and they looked like shit. And they were definitely
Nah,
digital effects. No, they were not
they
cool.
were great. I love the
Nah,
big robots.
I don't like the big robots as
No,
much.
you're silly. I liked it more than her limp that she was doing after she got shot. Such
Her
an
robot limp?
overpronounced, yeah, her Frankenstein limp. Get out of here with
Yeah, because
that.
she's Frankenstein. She is Frankenstein. So just recapping on the storylines then. So Bernard goes and gets William. Is that right, or does that not that happens? Right? Is
Yeah,
that a
no,
thing?
Bernard's the one that, which is interesting because now we get Bernard with Stubbs and William, so that's quite a trio right there.
Yeah, buddy cop with a buddy cop trio. That'd be interesting. Unlikely allies. So I guess we'll see where that goes for the next 2 episodes. Yeah, I'm not too hyped on this at the moment. I did enjoy seeing Charlotte Hale and her stump double in the FX thing afterwards. Both
Yeah,
looking really weird. That was cool. And some of the action was cool. And it's all about Data, man.
yeah, it's all about Data. It's all about the Man in Black. I mean, it is interesting that they announced this week. Well, I mean, to date when we're recording it, but they announced that they are approved for a season 4 because it does feel like things are headed for more of a conclusion than previously. I mean,
Yeah.
like the the people know that they're on a loop or whatever. The robots seem to be at a point where they're gonna have either their revolution or go off to their Shangri-La. It's just weird to think that they're like, no, let's do some more. But I guess we'll see. I
Yeah,
mean, we won't, but you'll see.
I remember from like first season they were already saying like, yeah, we got 7 or 8 seasons planned out, and at the time I was like, Jesus, I hope they like. I don't know. I that doesn't fill me with confidence because whenever people say they have 8 seasons or whatever planned out, it makes me feel like, okay, so you're not going to make the first season as good as it possibly can be because you're thinking about stuff too far down the line. You should just put all the cool stuff in the first season or the first film or the first book or whatever, because otherwise people aren't going to care about the continuation. Now, to be fair, they kind of did that. So,
Well,
yeah.
but also, like, so do we go back and tell these people they're liars now? I mean, I guess they're not liars. He did have things planned out, but he clearly didn't have this stuff planned out.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think we've probably even said on this podcast that they've got notes. I'm sure they've written down a page or two on what they would like to do, but everything always changes as you get into the process of actually writing it anyway. And you put in whatever you see in the news and whatever you pick up from other stories, and maybe you watch a film noir thing and you're like, hey, we should have a black and white section. Like it's just what happens naturally in writing, I think.
Sure.
So I don't think they're lying, but yeah.
Well, but I think there's a difference, though. Like, I don't think there's even a shadow of some of the stuff they're doing and even did do in season 2 that they had planned out when they're doing season 1. And I mean, again, I guess that's not, I can't hold that against them too much, but I guess it's just because it doesn't feel like things have gone to great quality lengths where it's like on one hand if they're like, hey, we clearly scrapped everything, but like look at this great stuff we're making.
Yeah.
But with the amount of kind of retcon and the amount of time they've had, it doesn't feel like they're delivering on the quality that they should. That's all I'll say.
I believe that if you and I went back in time and sat down with Mr. Nolan and we were like, "Ha, you're a liar," he would just take out an envelope and hand it to us, and we open it up, and it goes, "Jesse Pinkman is in Westworld," and we're like, "Holy shit, he knew all along!" And then underneath it says, "In 10 years, you will kill yourself by the seaside," and I'm like, "Oh no, he did know everything all along. What was gonna happen?"
Kid Cudi's on Westworld.
Yeah. So 2 episodes to go. That means there's one podcast for us left to do on this season. Maybe the final podcast coverage we'll do of Westworld. I guess we'll see.
Yep.
Do you agree, disagree with our thoughts? Send them on to showswhatyouKnow@gmail.com. Again, that's showswhatyouKnowShow@gmail.com. You can also go to showswhatyouKnow.com for our website, where we have all our other coverage of other shows that we really like. For example, there's No Mercy, a Cobra Kai kickback, where we're talking about Cobra Kai and the whole Karate Kid franchise, which we're enjoying a lot. So, if you want to hear us wax poetic and be really positive, maybe go over there. Anything else, Jim?
Nah, that about does it. Thank you so much.
That about does it indeed. Goodbye.
Oh, I forgot we had a thing.
I forgot we had what is the thing?